Welcome back to Music News Mondays. Let's get on it. Jonathan Davis, who's the singer of Korn, did an interview this week where he came out and said that he always had a problem with Korn being classified as a metal band. I guess he was interviewed on March 12th. If I can go wait, pop up. On the March 12th edition of Whiplash. I don't know what Whiplash is, but there you are. Oh, I guess it's the KLOS radio show hosted by Full Metal Jackie. How about that? And Jonathan said, this is quotes from the speech, "I always had a problem with the term metal. We never were that. I mean, I just go back to the beginning when Korn started out. We came out of Huntington Beach, California, and they didn't know what to do with us. The first tour we went out with was Biohazard and House of Pain. Second tour, I think... There's a lot of stuff they said. I won't go through it all. If you want to read it, it's on Blabbermouth. It's a website for stuff. But he went on to say that, he said, I think we're just heavy rock. And he also said that he doesn't like categories, period. And I think that's very interesting because even though Korn is a significantly larger band or act than I am, I also have struggled with this whenever people ask me what genre I would classify my music as. And it's really hard for me to pick a genre because anymore, the way I see it is that bands are going in two different directions. One direction, not the band. Although I did see a picture of a rubber band and it said still a better band than One Direction. That made me laugh. You get bands that are becoming more, what's the word? Condensed down, maybe? I don't know. But bands are really, really living up to a specific genre. There are bands that are doing that where, if they're a pop artist or a rap artist or Christian rock or whatever the genre is, you get one side of the spectrum where bands are really, really saturating themselves in that genre. It's to the point of looking cliche, in my opinion. But then you have the opposite side, where I'd like to classify myself, and that's bands or artists who hover around one localized area, but music is much more than that to them and to me. Like for me, I classify myself as hard rock because that's really what comes to mind to me. See, there used to be a time where there wasn't so many genres. Elbow slipped off my chair. You had country, you had hip-hop, you had pop, which stood for popular, and it still does, but it's taken on a whole new atmosphere. And you had hair metal, and you had rock. Like Lynyrd Skynyrd was rock, and hair metal was bands like Skid Row or Motley Crue. Then you had what was kind of classified as glam rock. That's where like Kiss resided, and bands like that really, really had a out there sort of flamboyant, not flamboyant, but I don't know, what's the actual definition of flamboyant? Of or denoting a style of French Gothic architecture marked by wavy flame light No, that's not the one I'm looking for. Tending to attract attention because of their exuberance, confidence, and stylishness. I guess that would kind of fit. You had that, but it was very categorized. There wasn't much crossover. And as music has evolved, there's been this fork in the road where bands and artists have either dug themselves deeper, almost incestuously, into a genre where everybody sounds like everybody because they sound like everybody. And then you have bands that are emerging from the trenches trying to take inspiration from other areas, other genres, other artists. Like Trent Reznor, he was the first one to do what he did, and one of his major inspirations was David Bowie. And then Kurt Cobain, one of his major inspirations was the Beatles. But Nirvana sounded nothing like the Beatles. And I think that's where music should be. But Nirvana was classified as grunge, and I guess some called them post-rock too, or West Side rock. That's the problem with genres, is with a genre you're trying to reduce down the definition of something, especially in music, that's so grand, something that's so diverse, something that evolves over time. So that's why I call myself hard rock, because I vary. I write songs that aren't metal. And I don't classify myself as metal. Whenever I think of metal, I think of heavier bands. Like, to me, I guess you have metal, then you have death metal, then you have Norwegian metal. And it's just, there's too much classification. There are attributes of an artist or a band that can fit within a genre, but I don't think that we need to be really labeling things down into subcategories of subcategories of subcategories. I would agree with Jonathan Davis that Korn is heavy rock, because if you listen to them, they don't really have metal tendencies. You know, metal, you think of faster music, faster picking, and more high note scaling on the guitar. And Korn really doesn't have that. With metal, rarely do you have electronic elements within it. So I can completely understand where Jonathan's coming from on that. And like Jonathan said here, to him, metal is Judas Priest or Dio. To a newer generation person, metal to them could be Ghost or Skillet. Those are two conflicting bands there, aren't they? You know, that could be metal to a newer person. So it's hard to define something that evolves. It's hard to define, specifically anyway, something that is meant to grow, is meant to have a life. And I think that as far as music goes and musicians and artists, both the musicians and the fans need to start looking at it in more of a artist-specific manner. It's okay to have metal or hard rock, heavy rock, whatever you want to call it, and rock in general, because those are pretty broad. But if you ask somebody, what does Chevelle sound like? Well, Chevelle sounds like Chevelle. Breaking Benjamin sounds like Breaking Benjamin. But then, you know, you get into the categories like, what does Luke Bryan or Eric Church or Jason Aldean or Florida Georgia Line, and they all sound the fucking same. But thank God we're not in that area. But we just need to start focusing on attributes as a whole, and then focus on an artist specifically as to who they are. I like to think that I sound like me. I don't want to sound like any other band. There are influences that you could hear in my music of other bands, but that's because I listen to them. That's because they're the bands that I learned how to play guitar on, or I learned how to drum to, and they have elements that I like. The only reason anybody ever becomes a musician is because at one point they heard other music that they liked and inspired them. Otherwise, they wouldn't know that good sounds exist, or sounds that were pleasing to them exist. So whenever you're trying to figure out what a band sounds like, think about it more specifically to who the band is. And they should sound like them. They should sound like themselves. Korn sounds like Korn. And in other news, I was thumbing through Instagram the other day, and I saw a video pop up on the Sevendust Instagram page. And let's see, today's Friday. I'm filming this on Friday, so it'll be ready on Monday. And tomorrow, so technically whenever you see this, it had already happened, Sevendust is having a sale of their road cases from their storage unit in Atlanta, Georgia. I've hung out with Sevendust a couple times, and they're super cool guys. Vinny is hilarious. That guy's great. I mean, that guy's just that guy's a pleasure to talk to. But it would be awesome to get a plane ticket and go down there and just witness it. I've never known for something like this to happen, where a band is selling their road cases or some stage gear from their storage units, a big storage units that they have down there. But if you're in the Atlanta area, well, I guess if you're in the Atlanta area, you missed out, unless you caught it early before you see this. But yeah, they're selling some of their road cases. I don't know why. I know that they only have a couple shows in the foreseeable future, but Clint also did an interview, I can't remember with who, but where they asked him, he did an interview with Miles Kennedy also. They were interviewing them both at the same time. And Clint mentioned that Sevendust will be on a hiatus for about a year coming up. So they tend to do that. I don't know how long this one will last. Clint said about a year. It could be longer, it could be shorter, I don't know. It's interesting whenever a band goes on hiatus, because you never know what the reasons behind it is. Is it just taking a break? Do they want to spend more time with their family? Is there something in the industry that they're not liking that they want to kind of back away from? Or are they getting tired of the industry? Are they looking to, snuff the flame? I don't know. It's always something that is worrisome yet intriguing at the same time. Yeah, if you made it to their sale in Atlanta, let me know about that. I'd like to know how it went, what it was like. I won't be able to get a plane ticket to go over and get on a plane and fly across the country and land by tomorrow. That would be astronomically expensive and spend all the money that I would use to buy a bunch of stuff. That's not feasible. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, all at Stenosis Music. You can add me on Snapchat at Stenosis Music. It's in a little banner it plays at the beginning of the video. Let me know what your thoughts are about music genres and bands selling gear. I'll see you next time.